This debate has concluded. We come now to the general debate. Would some member care to move that the House take note of miscellaneous business? Honourable Bill
Mr.
English.
Speaker. So the party that's mired in splits and divisions calls a snap debate on splits and divisions. Now that's a great strategy. Just like in the same way as the party that's responsible for all the damage to the New Zealand economy is trying to front-end the economic policy as its strongest point. So, Mr. Speaker, it's a bit like Trevor Mallard saying other people are unbalanced. Mr. Speaker, this is the strategy of a party that is still struggling, and understandably so, with the challenges of opposition. Because there's the one hurdle that they must get over. There's a lot of hurdles you run into in opposition. We know a bit about that. But there's one that they must get over. They have to admit the voters were right. They have to admit the voters were right. And how close do we think the Labour Party is to admitting the voters of West Auckland were right to throw them out? They are no closer than they were a week before the last election. No closer. Well, for all the other machinations and all the little tactics and all the very odd strategies such as we've seen today, that is the one hurdle they are nowhere near. I think about year 4, year 5, probably. About year 4, year 5. A long way to go, because until... And you know, the interesting thing is the voters know. The voters know when you've got over that hurdle. And that is why it doesn't matter how clever the most cohesive and smartest political machine that was ever invented and still run from New York by the sound of it. It doesn't matter how clever all that is, the voters still know that Labour thinks the voters were wrong. And guess what? The voters think they're right, I've found. The voters have not changed their mind. They have not changed their mind. They think they're in charge. Now, I know the Labour Party doesn't understand that yet. They still think Darren Hughes is in charge. They still think Phil Goff's in charge. Actually, Chris Carter's in charge. Because he's the one who's really telling the voters what the voters believe, which is that Labour can't win and there's splits and divisions and they can't make up their mind about their policy. So, Mr. Speaker, we are fortunately have the opportunity as government, given to us by those same voters, to grasp the challenges, and particularly the long-term challenges for the economy. And those are considerable. They've always been a bit of a challenge in this small, open economy at the end of the world, but they've been made much larger, much more challenging by the actions of the last government, particularly since 2005, where their policies effectively wrecked the tradable sector of a trading nation. And if you're going to damage an economy, a trading economy, you couldn't have done more than they did. A 5-year recession in our export sector. And the best economic conditions called the Great Moderation that decade, where other countries grew very strongly. And just by way of example, in the 4 years to March 2010, the Australian economy grew 11.6%, we grew 2%. And then we found out in recent days that if you take the statistics that governments use to calculate national super, that is the average wage series that is used to calculate national super, and you adjust it, take the after-tax numbers, which the government takes when it's adjusting national super, it's the after-tax average wage, and adjust it for inflation, guess how much New Zealand incomes grew on that series, which is used for national super, so it's not one randomly selected. For 9 years, it grew 3%. 0.3%. Now, I thought that meant 0.3% a year. But it doesn't. No, most of that growth happened while they were still enjoying the benefits of the previous national government's policies. From 2004 on, it was almost zero. 0.3%. .03, I think, was the actual result. From 2005 on, real after-tax incomes, as measured by the Statistics Department with the tool they use for calculating national super, almost zero growth since 2005.
Question is that the motion be agreed to. Honourable David Cunliffe.
Sat down